And welcome to the Resilience Reset. It is Thursday, and you know what that means. It is time for another book review. Linchpin, this is the book that I am reviewing today. And this is unlike any other book review. This is, Allie read a book and now she's going to add commentary and tell you what's in it. So to encourage you to read it and add my own 2 cents with my own work from my books that I hope will help you, in this case, choose to be a linchpin. Now, this book is by Seth Godin, and I just to go without saying, I'm a fan. Everybody's a fan. Everybody who knows Seth loves his work because he's someone who is so brilliant. He comes up with ideas and he ships. Like if you read what he says, the reason he's really good at reaching the masses and creating a tribe is because he ships a lot of work. He writes a lot of bad copy in order to get good copy. And so here's what's interesting about this book for me. So first of all, for those of you joining, by the way, say hi in the chat. I just jump right in, but I'd love to hear from you. Have you read this book? If not, I hope by the end of it you will, because there's some really fascinating stuff in here. But at first I was like, why is this book on Tom's list? That's what I thought. Isn't that funny? And here's why, because it was written in 2010. And folks, it's 2021. And I'm like, are we reading a book that's old? But here's the thing, some books are timeless. And this book list that I have chosen this summer, so these were my picks over here. And then this is Tom Bilyeu, who is, as him and his wife, Lisa, have a impact theory, and they recommend you read these books as part of their mindset. So a mindset reset. And I thought, well, you know what? I got some time. I'm going to read some books and reset my mind. Anyway, we made it here. And the first part of the book, I was like, why again am I reading this? Like, it's 2021. And we know that the workforce has changed. We know that we can't just be a cog in a wheel and be happy in a system that we're designed to obey. And in fairness, I think maybe because I'm just so aware of that, like it just, and maybe some people aren't. So that would be really interesting. And I think in 2010, that would have been really fascinating for many people, because it would have been like, ooh, wait, what? How we've done this isn't going to keep going. And then we get to the point where he starts talking about the resistance. And this, my friends, is brilliant. This is what I think all of us, every one of us who are out there doing our best, trying to contribute, creating, whether it's through writing or problem solving or selling or whatever it is you do in your world, I believe we all face the resistance. And that's what we're going to unpack today. Greg is here, and he is joining us over on LinkedIn, which is great. And as you know, maybe you don't know, we've got lots of new people joining in lately. I stream every Monday to Thursday, 3:15 Eastern, and it goes on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and one of my Facebook pages. So there we go. All right. Okay. So where are we going to start with this? Actually, you know what? I'm going to start with my first haha in the book. If you've been following along, please don't ever judge. I have dog ears and writing and highlighting in my books when I read them. That's why I can't use a book from a library, because they'd never get it back and accept it. I'd have to rebuy it for them. I wrote here, I didn't write. I wrote, haha, highlighted. No one is a genius all of the time. Einstein had trouble finding his house when he walked home from work every day. But all of us are geniuses sometimes. Don't you think that? Like sometimes like we're in the groove and we're rocking it and we're rolling it. And then you're like, today's not the day that I am rocking and rolling. And then we judge ourselves. We don't need to judge ourselves. Like right here in the first paragraph, he's saying you can't be on all the time. And I think that there's this this unrealistic expectation that we are going to somehow be brilliant every moment of every day. And like, I don't know about you, and maybe you are. I certainly am not. Sarah's here too. Awesome. So she's over on Facebook, and great to have you here with us, Sarah. And she's saying, highlighting, so me, right? And it's like, it's just part of the human condition. You know, the more I do all this speaking and talking with clients and the resets and everything, I think like what I talk about is the human experience. You know, we're all going through it, and I'm just hoping that we can get through it a little bit more with less stress and a little more joyfully and a little more, you know, just enjoyment of the process, because there's a lot of hard stuff that we each have to face. Now, it's interesting because he says, and I won't read lots of it, but I'll pull out little points, and they may not have total context, but that's okay. He said, this choice does not require you to quit your job, though it challenges you to rethink how you do your job. And the reason I highlighted that is I think it's so important as we're talking in our society, right? There's this mass resignation that everybody's talking about where, and I don't even know if it's really truly happening, but anecdotally, it feels like a lot of people are just saying, I'm done. I'm quitting my job. I'm going to go somewhere else. And it's not the answer. And so in this book, Seth Godin is saying, there's a way within the job that you already have to find a better way to become a linchpin, as he calls, which means that you're not just a cog in the wheel, but you're indispensable to the success of the organization. And you can do that within the confines of your current role. And why I think this isn't so important is because if people's answer to not being stressed, to being unhappy in their job, to team dynamics that they're not enjoying, is to quit their job and go somewhere else, then they're actually probably going to end up in the exact same situation. I was on the Live Your Best Audacious Life podcast this morning, and Audley was interviewing me, and I'm going to share that with you when it comes out in a couple of weeks. But we were talking, and I was telling a story about a friend of mine who decided to leave a job because she really, really, really disliked her boss, like couldn't take it anymore. It was awful. And I'm like, you know what? If you move, you don't know what you're going to get in the other company. And you know, what's going to happen, right? Like, you don't know. And I'm like, I think you have to figure out how to be able to deal with this kind of a person and this kind of a boss before you leave anyway. So she moved. And 30 days later, guess who also came over to the competition? Yeah, the old boss. Could you imagine changing your job and then the person you were fleeing ends up coming over to the same company? That's why running is not the answer. And actually, later on in the book, he writes, hold on, I've written it down. And the reason I'm picking up this point is because I think that if you're not feeling happy in your work, if you're not feeling in the zone, or like you're really just living your full potential, the instinct may be to quit and go somewhere else. And I'm going to challenge you, as I think Seth is challenging you here, that you can shift your reality within your reality, right? Like you can change your response. You can have different boundaries. You can show up differently. You can put more effort in. You can change the type of effort you put into the job. And what he's saying is you can get a new job without leaving. And his perspective is to go for the promotion, like make yourself indispensable so that you can get the promotion. And, all it took was a choice. Benny didn't ask for permission to do her job better. She merely decided to. And I think, so there is hope. I guess that's what I'm pointing out to here. You don't become indispensable merely because you are different. But the only way to be indispensable is to be different. That's because if you're the same, so are plenty of other people. The only way to get what you're worth is to stand out, to exert emotional labor, to be as indispensable, to be seen as indispensable, and to produce interactions that organizations and people care deeply about. But here's the problem. We are designed to play it safe. We are designed to blend in, to be part of the tribe, not to be at the front of the firing line. And so this ultimately becomes the resistance. So how do you become a linchpin? It says the linchpin sees the world very differently. Exceptional insight, productivity, and generosity make markets bigger and more efficient. The situation leads to more opportunities. Okay, so going on, abundance is possible, but only if we can imagine it and then embrace it. Cool. So, there go my AirPods. So, be remarkable, be generous, create art, be willing to make judgment calls, connect people and ideas, and we will have no choice but to reward you. That's what he's saying. Whereas opposed to the old American dream, which I guess I just sort of gotten over at this point, keep your head down, follow instructions, show up on time, work hard, and suck it up. Right? And then you're going to be rewarded. But he's saying, no, the new way to be a linchpin, remarkable, generous, create art, make judgment calls, and connect people and ideas, and that will make you indispensable. You can't or you don't want to. Big difference. Big difference. Then he talks a lot about, your pay, following instructions, how we were really, and it is quite fascinating, especially as you watch what's happening in our political landscape today, this sense of, just keep your mouth shut, your head down, do the things you're told to do. And in actual fact, later on in the book, he talks about, where is it? What page did I put that on? Candyland, 193. This will make you laugh, but oh my gosh, I was like, oh, you're so right. He was quoting author Stephen Johnson, hates the board game Candyland and all board games like it. And Seth writes, I hate them even more than he does. I realize that games of pure chance have a long history, but that doesn't make them any less moronic, he writes. Here's how Candyland is played. You pick a card, do what it says, repeat. So true. This is early training in agenda following, indoctrination in obedience. We teach kids that the best way to win is to mindlessly pick cards, follow instructions, and wait for it all to turn out okay. Sheesh, what a disaster. Who else does that resonate with, right? Like, it's so true. But you know what? That's how we are. But then we have to rise above. And he's saying, create, create, create. Think out beyond what the punch in the time clock is. Yeah. All right. So it got really, really cool when he started talking about the resistance and the lizard brain and how it really, really controls our instinct and especially a lot of our fear. Sarah's saying, I don't think in today's world anyone is indispensable. You can be awesome, but you know what? You're right. Like, especially at a company. And even, do you remember when I did a Ray Dalio's book, Principles? And that was what he had, like, he founded the company. And even he realized he was indispensable, right? Like, but can we add more value? Can we show up and at least make ourselves be of high enough esteem that they're not going to get rid of us first? I guess that's what he's saying. It's the pursuit of perfect. So he does touch on perfectionism and how moronic it is, I think is one of the words he uses. Defect free is what people are often in search of, meeting spec blameless, protecting yourself. And it's all about this fear. And art is never defect free. So putting yourself out there. And I got to tell you, the middle part of this book, probably from about page 70 to probably about page 80. So 100 pages of this book was speaking so directly to me in my circumstance, because, if I can share, just like, here I am, I'm showing up 4 days a week. I'm riffing on topics, and it's creating quote unquote art in his, I didn't see it as art. I mean, I just consider it talking, but you just hope that you're adding value. And for years, I have had all this thinking and all the things that I talk about now, but I wasn't putting it out there consistently in any way. And then I really leaned into the fear. Like, what are you so afraid of? And I think one of the things I was afraid of was that, people wouldn't show up. And so that's why I'm so incredibly grateful for the people who do. Yay, thank you. That means a lot to me. And I think I was afraid, well, like, what if I say something stupid? And, that level of fear. And let's be honest, I probably will. And so that's just like leaning into it and accepting it. And I did the work around confidence and all of that I had in my earlier books on the networking book. But he explains why that fear is so real and what to do with it. And so I think that as he talks about the quote unquote gift economy, where when you create art, you're creating it to share it with other people. And it's not a tit for tat, right? It's not like he uses an example of a flight attendant who works in first class for British Airways. And you can, spend your whole day and, she's going to get paid the same, whether she's absolutely incredibly giving and kind and funny and engaging and serving the clients, or if she just dials in her job. She's going to get paid the exact same thing. But her art, her craft is in the giving and doing the good job. And the reward is what it does for that flight attendant at the end of the shift. She's had a great shift because she gave. And it's not like somebody's going to then hand her, a tip, or she's going to maybe she eventually will get a raise, or she might have more job security, but it's probably unionized, so probably not. And this is the kind of thinking that he wants us to get our head around. How can you show up, lean into your gifts so that you give them to other people and feel that sense of reward no matter what the outcome? He talks a lot about detaching from outcome. And, me, I love that as well. It's like, it's about the journey. It's not about the outcome. And so that to me, like, really just sort of articulated why it is I do these resilience resets Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday, because it's my type of art. It's quote unquote my craft. It's a chance to serve other people and help them. And the outcome I'm not attached to, because I think that one day we'll reach a whole bunch of people. And in the meantime, I'm so grateful to reach the small group of people who I am reaching. Does that make sense? Yeah. Oh, yes, this one. Ray Dalio. Yeah. Loved the second book. Me too. It was one of my favorites. If you weren't, I don't know if you were here for that review, Sarah. It was really good. I loved the book. And thank you. I'm glad you loved the riff. Okay, what else? I was talking to someone earlier. We used the word dynamo. Oh, referencing me. That's awesome. Just know the value you give a gift to everyone every day. That's awesome. Thank you. Like, I hope so. And Greg and I sometimes chat about it too. He's like, this has been really, he loves it. So Greg, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know you've said that on the show before. And, I think you have to show up and do it and do it and do it and do it. And then, one day it's going to explode and, I'll be the next Mel Robbins, except I'll be Alison Graham. That's okay. Okay, so, but to that point, actually, on page 161, this is interesting. Check this out. So he talks about 3 circles. And so the inner circle that you give your gift to are the people in your family, your friends, the people you work with, and you would just like that's your main reward, right? Like it's not necessarily transactional, but it's like that's your core. And then the second level is your commerce. So those are the people who buy your gift. Okay. And he said that you can do a good job with, right? And you can earn a living and all of that. But the real true linchpin, the real true reward and how you amplify your gifts and really serve humanity is in the third circle, which are the people who aren't necessarily paying directly for your service. The ones who are, it's how you can influence the masses and create your tribe and your following and whatnot. So I haven't quite figured out how to create that, right? Like how to reach that huge masses yet. But he's saying any of us can by showing up in our gift and by continually stepping through the fear to continually give the gift. Greg's saying consistency is key and you are knocking that out of the park. Well, thank you. I also appreciate how you bring in guests and promote others. Thank you. By the way, I've got 2 guests next Tuesday and a guest the Tuesday after that I'm speaking of guests. Really excited about. Amen to the third circle. I know, right? And that third circle, how do we each reach that? How do we, and I think to Greg's point, it's about consistency, and he doesn't tell you the how in this book. So, one of the things Seth is really good at is getting us to think differently. And he actually says, like, there is no map. There's no do this and this and this, and step 3 through 24 is this, and then you're going to reach your third circle. And he says that because there's no map, because art, as defined by writing, engaging, creating, leading, whatever it is for you, is valuable because there is no map. If there was a point by number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that you could follow, then anybody could do it, and then it wouldn't be your art. It wouldn't be your gift. And so, that's what brings the value, because everything else we can Google or we can hire someone who is easily replaced, an easily replaced laborer. See how this is timeless? Even though the book was written in 2010, it's still completely relevant today. Yes, you have. I have a third circle. Okay, I'll take it. I don't know if I have a third circle yet. I'd like to think so. It's coming. I don't know. I have a lot of inner circle, and it just by notion of all the networking I did for years. And then the second circle, I have my clients, and that's amazing. And the people who hire me to speak. And then it's that next circle. Okay, I'm going to go with you. I'm just going to believe I have a third circle. Thank you. You're awesome. Okay. But and by the way, I'm talking about me in this book because I really saw a lot of answering my own questions in it. But I'm also challenging you. How are you showing up? What's your circle? And what's your gift? And how are you doing that? The most successful givers aren't doing it because they're told to. They do it because doing it is fun. It gives them joy. And is that not and that's what I've been saying the whole time. It's I do this because I love doing it, and I'm so grateful that it helps other people, and it gives me joy. And so finding the pieces within your existence that you can lean into that do give you joy so that you can do it, whether you're getting paid or not, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, what are these little notes? Artists don't give gifts for money. They do it for respect and connection and to cause change. So the best recipients are the ones who reciprocate in kind with honest gratitude. So people being appreciative is the greatest gift back to a gift giver. Isn't that great? with gifts that actually cost us, not just a tiny gratitude or faux appreciation. Okay, let's see what else I have. So we talked about, we don't want to be an easily replaced laborer. We want to move into the linchpin role, which is sort of the glue that connects the team or a system, right? Obedience, we're trained into it. There's no map. We talked about the circles. Getting a new job without having to leave. So I just hope that gives you hope that wherever your circumstances are, you can shift how you're showing up in them and lean into pieces of it that do bring you joy while minimizing and emotionally detaching from the pieces that don't. Like that's like a lot of the work that I'm sharing with people. And then the reward for sharing is people sharing. Someone will get away with it. Oh, this is funny. I was like, oh, I know this. I know people like this. Okay. Our inclination is to give fire a pass because it's not human, but humans beings are similar in that they're not going to change anytime soon either. And yet most, he says most question mark in brackets, many people in organizations handle their interactions as though they are in charge of teaching people a lesson. Because we know that, right? We make policies and are vindictive and focus on the past because we worry that if we don't, someone will get away with it. Like the linchpin understands that getting angry about the battery in the microphone isn't going to make anyone the battery come back to life. And teaching the stage crew guy a lesson is senseless and not going to help much either. Obviously, referencing a story earlier in the chapter. But, you think about how, if somebody cut you off in traffic. Okay, so they cut you off in traffic. As long as you're safe and you don't have to call the police, move on with your day. We don't need to be angry about them. You don't need to teach them the lesson that, by giving them the finger or hanging on the horn or speeding up and trying to, pay them back. All of that is completely wasted energy that steals your capacity to have joy in that moment right now. And so if I thought for a second that if you gave the finger to the person who cut you off in the traffic jam, that it would change their behavior for the future, I would say finger away, go for it. But the thing is, it doesn't change how they drive. So it's totally throwing on you. And he's saying like a linchpin is someone who gets that and doesn't give any credence to these things that don't really matter. And because of that, you'll navigate the world with more bliss and effectiveness. I believe that to be true. But let's talk about resistance and fear, and then we'll wrap up. Oh yeah, these things go long now. That's all right. Okay, so you can either fit in or stand out. You can't do both. I highlighted that line. It's on page 194. And I highlighted that because I think that so many of us are doing this push-pull. I want to stay small because that's where my life is. And I just don't want to, what about that big bad world out there? And then, but I really want to do and accomplish something great and be a part of influencing, society as a whole. And I want to step onto the bigger stages and talk to 20,000 people at once. But you know what? It's nice to stay small. And it's this push-pull back and forth and it's the lizard brain that's controlling that's saying, stay small, stay safe. But you can't be small and large at the same time. And so with it, it's very much about having the awareness. I mean, he doesn't talk about self-awareness, but I think of it as self-awareness, to be able to recognize when is the resistance, when is the fear taking over and unnecessarily influencing your success levels. And the lizard brain works on it in different ways. He has a ton of them. I'll read a few. That you don't ship on time. So meaning you miss deadlines, or you get so caught up in trying to make something perfect that you never actually get the thing out, right? Like you never write the blog post, the book, the podcast, the lives. Like, and, a lot of people have said to me, oh, I want to do lives like you do lives. I'm like, great, do lives. It's that hard. You know how you do a live? You get restream.io and you watch a tutorial for about 2 minutes, and then you add in your social media accounts and you push go live. That's actually even more complicated than it needs to be. You go on your Facebook page and you push video and you hold up your phone and you talk to it. And yet so many people choose not to do that. They choose not to ship. And Seth Godin is saying that's the resistance. The resistance is everywhere all the time. Its goal is to make you safe, which means invisible and unchanged. Visibility is dangerous. It leads to the possibility of people laughing at you or even death. Change is dangerous because it involves moving from the known into the unknown, and that might be dangerous. And you know what? There was a point in our life where the fear needed to hold us back, right? Like the fear was there to keep us alive. And now we're not going to, like, and even if we do get laughed at, there's so many people on the internet, laugh away, right? I'll probably laugh with you if you're laughing at my stuff. We all know that happens sometimes. Okay, so you don't ship on time, late, procrastinate, claiming that you need it to be perfect. You send out defective ideas. You suffer anxiety about what to wear to an event. I thought that was a really random example, but I totally get it. Make excuses involving lack of money. Do excessive networking with the goal of having everyone like you and support you. Very much I think of that, and I think of the difference between busy networking and profitable networking, right? Be snarky, start committees instead of taking action, join committees instead of leading. So there are a lot of ways that this brain of ours tries to do a good thing, but the thing is, by keeping us safe and keeping us back from showing our gifts, inevitably what's happening is we don't live up to our potential and we don't live a fully fulfilled and realized life, which ultimately is a bad thing. So it's backfiring. Our brain is backfiring. So what do? We lean into it. Where is it? We lean into the fear. Safe never works. Yeah, unless you're in the middle of a tornado, in which case get somewhere safe. Right? But in terms of giving our gifts or staying in the role or being just, it doesn't work. I also thought this was funny. I'm going to close here because we've been going for a while, but he had a flight, it was diverted. Okay, so he tells the story about how a flight was diverted and then canceled, and there was, I don't know if it was weather or whatever, and it was the drive to the airport where they should have been would have been an hour and 30 minutes, or 130 minutes, sorry. So like whatever, a couple hours, a little bit more over 2 hours. And so he said, I'm going to rent a car and I'm going to drive and I'm going to get everybody, offer it to anybody on the plane. So he stood up in the plane. He said, look, I'm going to rent a car and I'm going to drive and we're going to be there in 2 hours. And you're welcome to come. It's not going to cost you anything. Just come for the drive. Could you imagine if you would have been on that plane and Seth Godin said, hey, do you want to drive? Nobody took him up on the offer. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, then I was laughing because look at that, Sudbury, because I was at the Island Airport in Toronto. It just reminded me of a fun story. I was in the Island Airport in Toronto. I had a client the next day for a workshop up in Sudbury, and there was a weather delay. So we actually ended up taking off, then we couldn't land. So we had to turn around and come back to the Island Airport, and then we were waiting to go, but then they told us the flight wasn't going to go. Well, I had no choice. I had 45 people who were going to be showing up the next morning, and I had to get there. So I did. I was in the Island Airport in Toronto and it was like, who wants to go with me? And I wouldn't just take one person because I didn't want to be unsafe, but I figured if I could get 5 people to go with me, then there was safety in numbers. And oh my gosh, in the middle of one of the worst snowstorms, I don't know how many hours it took us. Like I got there in time, but like barely. I don't know if I actually slept before the workshop, but we made it, and I had people, but I had to like convince some people to go with me. I'm like, I'm not crazy. I can take you. Please come. And they did. We had a little road trip. Isn't that fun? Yeah. I tell you though, I would have preferred if Seth Godin were offering the ride. Pretty awesome. I would have said yes. Anyway, so all in all, a phenomenal book. As I said at the very beginning, I was like, why? It's an older book and the whole workforce, and we can't be a cog in the wheel, and we just can't, easily replace laborers. I thought, you know what, we're kind of past that in today. So I was like, why did Tom Bilyeu keep this book in there? And then I was like, I read a little bit further and I was like, oh, because the human experience doesn't change. We still all face the resistance. We still all hide our gifts. Not all, many of us hide our gifts. We don't step into our full potential, and we keep our mouths shut and we sit down and we are, do the thing that we're expected to do by the person who's paying us. If you're working for a job, instead of being innovative, instead of being creative, instead of going on that extra limb. And when you give your talents, that's when you receive the most joy, and not directly back, but when you give it out. So those were the kind of thoughts I had from Seth Godin's book. Thank you, Seth, again for writing this and all the other work that you've done. And let's see the next book. They all fall down. It's not a very good looking bookshelf, I'll tell you. I got to get a bigger one, I think. I love the books on it, but is this one. So I will crack this open tonight. How to be good to great to unstoppable. Yeah, I see the theme. All these books are very similar in how they do, but they have just a little bit of a different perspective. That helps. Anyway, yes, Sarah, I figured you meant in business. Yeah, being safe, you got to take the risk, right? You've got to get out there, and it's not a comfort for everybody, but it's definitely worthwhile. So listen, I'm going to wrap it up today, and thank you for being here. I'm really grateful, as you know, for each and every one of you who comes and listens to me riff and offers in the comments and chats and shares and all of that good stuff. So in terms of next steps next week, I'll put up the agenda, but be sure you're on my Tuesday lift up. If you're not already, send me a note and I'll be sure to get your email on that. Or you can go to my website at alisongraham.co to be sure you never miss an update. And until the next one, may you stress less, do more, and be happier. I will see you on Monday.